Is Microsoft ruining the lives of blind people? There are numerous hardware and software forms of technology called assistive technology that blind people rely on a day-to-day basis to do simple and essential things, and companies like Microsoft are killing them one by one. Let me show you. This is the Cobalt Speechmaster. It's a $250 talking device for the blind that scans the color of objects in order to tell them what color they are.
Dark yellow.
And this is Microsoft Seeing AI. It's a free app developed by the Microsoft Research Division and is on the iOS App Store for free. It also comes with color identification function, like so.
Yellow.
This is KNFB Reader. It's an app that is available on mobile devices and costs about $100. It's a form of optical character recognition software that allows blind users to scan physical documents on paper and convert them into screen reader compatible soft copy documents so blind people can read them.
Hey diddle diddle, the cat played the fiddle.
This is Microsoft Seeing AI. It also has an optical character recognition mode that allows users to scan documents and read both short and longer forms of text.
Hey diddle diddle. The cat played the fiddle.
And Microsoft Seeing AI is, of course, as we know, free. And finally, this is the ID Mate Summit. It's a talking barcode reader that can scan the barcodes on products and identify them for blind users.
So I'm going to take this first item here because I don't know what it is, and I'm going to scan it. Oh, there it goes.
Product. Benadryl allergy, dye-free, liquid gels.
It costs $1,300 on the manufacturer's website. And once again, here is Microsoft Seeing AI. It also has a product identification mode that allows users to scan barcodes on products using your phone camera.
Focusrite Scarlett Solo 2 and 2 out USB audio interface. 3rd generation.
So how is one app, Seeing AI by Microsoft, replacing all of these expensive and essential products for the blind for free? If Microsoft Seeing AI costs $0, is that going to outcompete these small assistive technology companies and put them out of business? And if this happens, is it going to ruin the lives of blind people? Okay, yes, I am being a bit salacious here, but it is an important question worth asking. How on earth is Microsoft able to do this? And if there are assistive technology companies whose entire business model hinges on selling assistive technology like hardware and software for the blind, what will happen if companies like Microsoft enter their domain and start offering products for free? Are these companies going to go out of business? And if so, is this going to prevent blind people from accessing useful and essential assistive technologies? So to understand this topic, let's answer one of the most important questions here, right? Is Microsoft somehow so much smarter than everyone else? Are the people there so much more big brain to the point where these small companies just cannot conceive ways of making their products free? Is Microsoft just that much better? Obviously, this is not the answer. Both types of companies, both Microsoft and these small assistive tech companies, have really brilliant people working on their products. But what Microsoft has is a lot of money, and also they have a really important business reason to offer a product like Seeing AI for free. This is Azure, Microsoft's cloud computing platform. Now, what cloud computing is basically if you have an internet service like a website or mobile app, it goes on a cloud platform service. Now, that's not the important part of today's topic. But what Azure does is it has many types of tools that offer technology services for businesses who need to store websites or applications on the cloud. This includes things like data warehousing, analytics tools, cloud application hosting services, and most importantly for our topic today, Microsoft Azure also has a robust suite of artificial intelligence tools. If you are a tech company in the business of building services that require artificial intelligence, you're in luck because Microsoft Azure is one of the service providers that has the tools for AI and machine learning services that you will need in order to build such applications. Now, these tools are under a division of Azure which they call cognitive services, and some of the things that it's capable of include optical character recognition, and computer vision, where we get computers to understand what cameras are detecting. And this all comes for a fee, of course. Now, is this starting to sound familiar? Computer vision, optical character recognition, using your camera to recognize objects. Isn't this sounding a lot like what Microsoft Seeing AI is using? Now, just to be upfront, I don't work for Microsoft. I have never had any insight as to how Seeing AI actually works. But my theory, and I think it's a well-founded one, is that Microsoft Seeing AI uses Microsoft Azure's cognitive services AI tools. And this is how it's able to have the functionality that it provides in the app. So my theory is that, Microsoft Seeing AI acts as a really good marketing mouthpiece to showcase Microsoft Azure's AI services. It can do things like detect colors, how many people are in a room, what kind of objects there are, and even recognize text. Now, it may not seem obvious to you, but there are a lot of businesses that need tools like this when they are building software either to sell to other people or to use internally for themselves. Like one really popular use case of optical character recognition is actually in scanning documents to convert them into PDFs. This sounds pretty natural. If you can convert them into soft copy documents that blind people can rely on, you surely can convert them into digital copies that you can store on your online libraries or hard drives. And to be fair, Seeing AI works incredibly well. It is extremely fast and reasonably accurate. It's also easy to use, and obviously we cannot discount the fact that it is incredibly good PR for Microsoft to be offering such an app for free to blind and low vision users. Assistive technology, as we found out in the beginning of this video, is really expensive. And so a tool like Microsoft Seeing AI is really opening up a lot of really minor but important tools for blind people to use in their day-to-day lives. So let's be real, the title and the beginning of this video aside, Microsoft is not evil for doing this. Let's just make that very clear. But then it begs the question, what do we do about these assistive technology companies that have been building these life-changing tools for people with blindness and low vision? What about them? If companies like Microsoft have a bigger, better business reason to come in and offer these tools for free, how are these companies supposed to compete by selling their services for such a high fee to the blind and low vision community? Now, the issue of assistive technology and the way it is sold to people with disabilities is actually a really complex one. There are a number of issues at play here, and let's just go over a few of them. So number one is that people with disabilities represent a significant but minority percentage of the population. The vast majority of people are not going to need things like KNFB to scan their paper documents, or a color scanner in order to, identify the color of their clothes. Most people just don't need things like that. And so these products, using the law of supply and demand, you just don't have that many people who are in demand for these kinds of products. And so you can't really make that many of these kinds of products to sell at high volumes, which is why the prices are just high. That's just the reality of economics. But another problem that has existed is the consolidation of the assistive technology industry. Let's think of it this way, right? We previously established that the demand for assistive technologies is rather low when you compare them to other kind of commodity products. For example, way more people will need things like cars or laptops compared to things like screen readers and color scanners. And so because there are not that many customers, eventually what does seem to happen for a lot of these assistive technology companies is they start, becoming lumped together, whether that's through mergers or acquisitions or just based off the fact that only one company has had the majority market share in selling a particular product to a particular type of customer. As an example, JAWS is a screen reader that is for Windows computers and for the longest time was the market leader in screen reader technology for the blind. There were just no other really good options, as in you had Apple's VoiceOver, but that required you to switch over to a completely different operating system. And if you needed to use a Windows computer, JAWS really was your only option. But depending on which version of JAWS you get, it can cost you anywhere from a few hundred to over $1,000 to buy the software. It's just really expensive. And the reason why JAWS could get away with charging that much money is because they were the only one offering a competitive screen reader technology for Windows users. Now, fortunately, what ended up happening is someone else built a competing screen reader for Windows, and it's called NVDA. It is open source, so it's built by the community, and it is free. And so while JAWS enjoyed many decades of being the market leader in screen reader technology, eventually NVDA, because it was free, managed to catch up, and so naturally NVDA is now the number one choice for screen readers on Windows computers. And so when it comes to talking about assistive technologies and how we can make sure that they can be built for people with disabilities in a sustainable way, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that Microsoft and many other companies like it will have reasons to build similar or if not complete replacements of existing assistive technologies. This is just a reality. Microsoft is by no means special. Google, Apple, and many other companies have built their own assistive technologies for different disability types for any number of reasons, and they all have a combination of good reasons from both a user point of view and a business money-making point of view. We are not here to argue that, and these companies are not necessarily evil for offering a better, cheaper alternative to existing assistive technologies out there. But when we're talking about the disabled community and people outside of the community who want to support people with disabilities, we need to think about how we can reliably and sustainably offer many different types of options for people with disabilities when it comes to assistive technologies. Remember what I said about JAWS being the market leader for a really long time and charging exorbitant prices? That is going to happen all over again if companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Google become the only options for, whatever kind of assistive technology we're talking about. Competition makes companies think of their products differently and innovate and make them better. And so it's important for small upstart companies or organizations like NVDA to exist to challenge the market and offer something unique. So what can we take away from today's video? Well, number one, making assistive technologies is really hard. It's really expensive, it takes a lot of really smart people, and unfortunately, it's not a huge market, so there's not, billions of dollars to be made. You can make money, but it's not the kind of big money that we see in many other technology fields. But what we can do is make them intelligently. So open sourced free projects like NVDA exist because there were a bunch of smart and passionate people who gathered together to solve for a problem, which was the fact that screen readers were expensive and consolidated in big companies, and so they decided to build NVDA as a free open source piece of software. And so if you're an IT professional or just someone who wants to learn more about assistive technologies, what you can do is contribute to many of these open source projects that exist out there in the world. NVDA, for example, is always accepting new contributors to its software. You can find their website in the link that I'm going to be putting in the description below. They have a website that documents all the kinds of things that are in NVDA, and there is an application process for you to submit if you would like to be a contributor. And by no means NVDA is the only type of open source project that exists out there that can help people with disabilities. There's many of them. Some of them are going to be global ones like NVDA, and many of them are going to be local ones in your area. So what I strongly recommend you to do is, if you want to make a genuine change, if you want to do more than just say that you support people with disabilities and want to lend your skill set to help the disabled community in a meaningful way, do think about how you can contribute to assistive technology projects that are open source so that we can build more affordable and accessible assistive technology tools for people with disabilities like me. Now, hopefully this was an interesting video and showed you a little bit about the complexities that exist in building these kinds of technology tools that benefit people like me. Technology has been a huge enabler, but it also comes with its challenges and eccentricities. Now, if you would like to support me on my journey to educate the world about what it's like to live with blindness, you can support me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/JoshTseng. Or you can subscribe to this channel and stay notified for my future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!